A prophet disappears into a whirlwind. A disciple remains on the riverbank, his hand gripping the cloak that has just fallen. Elisha's story is like a long river, sometimes calm, like water, sliding along the edges of farmland, sometimes roaring like a waterfall when war suddenly crashes in, sometimes so still you can hear your own heartbeat. It is not a chain of scattered miracles. It is the journey of a man called to step out of a safe life, to become a voice that makes kings tremble, and finally to lie down in silence, yet even his bones still testify that God is the giver of life. Everything begins in a place no one would call wholly a field. Wind blows fine dust that clings to hair and clothing. The ground is lightly cracked beneath the oxen's hooves. Elisha is a man used to the rhythm of the earth, used to the sound of oxen breathing and the scrape of the plow cutting through hard soil. He has fields workers and a clear future. His life could have flowed like so many others. Marry, have children, keep the land, and grow old in peace. Then, someone appears at the edge of the field. Elijah. No introduction is needed. Everyone in Israel has heard the name Elijah, the prophet of fire, the one who confronted Baal and made the royal court tremble. Elijah does not come to talk. He throws his cloak over Elisha's shoulders. Elisha freezes. The yoke in his hand suddenly feels strangely heavy. He looks at Elijah, then at the oxen, then at the soil. In that moment, he understands if he follows, the old life ends. And if he stays, he will spend the rest of his days with one restless question, if only. Elisha runs after him and says one simple, deeply human sentence.
"Let me kiss my father and my mother, and then I will follow you."
Elijah answers briefly,
"Go back again, for what have I done to you?"
as if to say, if you know this is a calling, do not blame anyone else. Elisha returns home and does something like cutting off every road behind him. He kills the pair of oxen, uses the wooden yoke as firewood, cooks the meat, and feeds the people. A farewell meal, but really a severing. The tools of his work become fuel. His oxen become a feast. He burns the bridge, so there is no easy way back. Then Elisha walks on, following Elijah, learning to live as a man called. The years with Elijah are not glittering. Elisha sees his master strong, like fire on a mountain, and at times exhausted like ashes in a cave. Elisha hears warnings, watches confrontations with kings, and witnesses the compromises of the people. Elisha learns something many do not want to learn. Power does not automatically make you great. Then the day of transfer arrives, the day Elisha must stand alone. Elijah knows he is about to be taken away. Elisha knows it too. They go from Gilgal to Bethel, from Bethel down to Jericho. The sons of the prophets stand at a distance watching, whispering.
"Knowest thou that the Lord will take away thy master from thy head today?"
Elisha answered,
"Yea, I know it. Hold ye your peace."
Not knowledge as information, but knowledge as a weight in the chest, like standing before a farewell you cannot escape.
"Elisha, stay behind on this road."
"As the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, I will not leave thee."
At every stage he clings, like a son clings to a father because he loves, and because he fears the moment of separation. They reach the Jordan. The wind is strong, and the river surface trembles. Elijah rolls up his cloak and strikes the water. The water splits like a road opening between two banks. They walk across as if stepping over the boundary between two eras. On the far side, Elijah asks,
"Ask what I shall do for thee, before I be taken away from thee."
Elisha answers immediately,
"I pray thee, let a double portion of thy spirit be upon me."
Not fame, not wealth, but the strength to stand between kings and people without breaking.
"Thou hast asked a hard thing. Nevertheless, if thou see me when I am taken from thee, it shall be so unto thee, but if not, it shall not be so."
Then the sky seems to tear. A chariot of fire and horses of fire appear, separating the two of them. Elijah is taken up in a whirlwind.
My father, the chariot of Israel, and the horsemen thereof!"
The cloak falls to the ground. falling like responsibility striking earth. Elisha picks up the cloak, and he knows that now it is only he and God. He turns back to the Jordan. He stands before the flowing water, rolls up the cloak, strikes the river, and cries.
Where is the Lord God of Elijah?
The water parts. Elisha crosses. And as he steps onto the other side, he learns the first lesson of his new calling. God does not belong to one generation. He does not die with one prophet. He lives and he remains with those he calls. The prophets at Jericho see it and say,
The spirit of Elijah doth rest on Elisha.
But Elisha does not pause to enjoy their approval. He walks straight into the fractures of the land. Jericho is well situated, but its water is spoiled. The ground is unproductive, harvests fail, and children grow sick. The people come and say,
The situation of this city is pleasant, but the water is not, and the ground barren.
Elisha asks for a new bowl, puts salt in it, and pours it into the spring. From that day, the water runs clean again. Trees bear fruit again. People not only receive clean water, but they also receive their future back. Then Elisha goes up to Bethel, a place that once held a history of worship, yet had been polluted by hypocrisy. On the road, a group of youths mocks him. They are not only joking about baldhead, they are despising what is holy and despising the calling itself. When a people grows used to mocking the sacred, they cut themselves off from what could save them. After that, a widow, the wife of one of the prophets, runs to Elisha in desperation.
Thy servant, my husband, is dead. And thou knowest that thy servant did fear the Lord, and the creditor is come to take unto him my 2 sons to be bondmen.
2 children stand behind their mother, clutching her clothes, eyes wide with fear. She is not asking to be rich. She is begging not to lose her sons. Elisha asks,
What shall I do for thee? Tell me, what hast thou in the house?
She looks around the empty home and says,
Thine handmaid hath not anything in the house, save a pot of oil.
Only a little is nearly gone like her strength.
Go, borrow thee vessels abroad of all thy neighbors, even empty vessels, borrow not a few. Then shalt thou go in, and shut the door upon thee and upon thy sons, and shalt pour out into all those vessels, and thou shalt set aside that which is full.
The sound of empty jars hitting the floor, clay tapping clay. The air inside that poor house tightens like a drawn string. She pours into the first jar, and it fills. A child brings the next, and it fills again. The oil keeps flowing like quiet grace. Only when there are no more jars does it stop. Elisha says,
Go, sell the oil, and pay thy debt, and live thou and thy children of the rest.
She pays the debt. Her sons are saved, and that poor home becomes proof that God is near even there. Then Elisha meets a woman in Shunem, wealthy and kind. She does not speak much. She acts.
Let us make a small room on the roof for the man of God.
A bed, a table, a chair, and a lamp. It was simple, but it was kindness that did not need to be displayed. Elisha wants to repay her goodness. He asks,
What do you need in return?
She answered,
I do not need anything.
But Elisha hears what she carries in silence. She has no child, and her husband is old. Elisha says,
About this season, according to the time of life, thou shalt embrace a son.
She trembles and answers,
Nay, my lord, thou man of God, do not lie to thine hand.
because hope can hurt more than despair. Yet the word is fulfilled. The child is born, and laughter fills the house. Then tragedy strikes. The boy goes out into the field and suddenly suffers severe pain in his head. His father tells a servant to carry him back. He lies on his mother's knees. His breath grows weaker, and then he dies. This is a mother's deepest pain. She lifts her child's body, her eyes empty. No, screaming. No, collapsing. She does something strange. She carries him up to Elisha's room, lays him on Elisha's bed, and shuts the door as if she is locking death inside that room and carrying faith outside. Then she sets out to find Elisha. When her husband asked,
Where are you going?
she simply replied,
Peace.
not peace because everything was fine, but peace spoken like a fragile thread, something she held on to keep herself from breaking. Elisha comes. He enters the room, shuts the door, and prays. Then he stretches himself upon the child, eye to eye, mouth to mouth, hand to hand, as if passing warmth back into life, as if pleading with God to bring the child's soul back. The child's body warms. The child sneezes 7 times and opens his eyes. The mother comes in, falls at his feet, and her grief breaks into silent tears. After that, Elisha walks through famine. Once the prophets cooked a stew and poisonous fruit was dropped into the pot, resulting in death. Elisha throws in flour and the pot becomes safe to eat. Another time, there are only a few loaves, and Elisha provides until everyone eats and there is still food left. These small miracles underline one truth. God does not only intervene in great events, he touches the meal too. Then the story opens to a man who is powerful yet helpless. Naaman is the commander of Aram, strong, victorious, honored by his king. But he has leprosy, a disease that slowly ruins dignity. He has power in public, but no peace in his body. A young Israelite girl taken captive and serving in his house says,
"Would God my Lord were with the prophet that is in Samaria, for he would recover him of his leprosy."
Naaman comes to Israel with the king's letter, with gold and silver proud, and stands at Elisha's door expecting a grand ceremony. But Elisha does not come out. He only sends a messenger.
Go and wash in Jordan 7 times, and thy flesh shall come again to thee, and thou shalt be clean.
Naaman is angry because it is too simple, not worthy of him. He wants a miracle that matches his status, a dignified ritual. But God chooses a path that forces a man to humble himself. Naaman turns away to leave. His servants plead,
My father, if the prophet had bid thee do some great thing, wouldest thou not have done it? How much rather then, when he said to you, Wash and be clean?
Naaman stops. He goes down into the Jordan, wants nothing. Twice, still nothing. 3, 4, 5, he wants to quit. But he continues. The 7th time, his skin becomes like a child's flesh, and he is clean. He returns and says,
Now I know that there is no God in all the earth, but in Israel.
Elisha refuses gifts. Grace is not for sale. But Gehazi, Elisha's servant, runs after Naaman and lies to get payment. When he returns, Elisha asks,
Whence comest thou, Gehazi?
Gehazi lies, and Elisha declares that Naaman's leprosy will cling to him. Being closest to miracles does not mean your heart is clean. Greed can destroy a man, even in the Huda and the shadow of holy things. Then war comes. The king of Aram wages war against Israel, but Israel seems to know the plans and escapes. The king of Aram becomes furious, gathers his commanders and says,
Will ye not shew me which of us is for the king of Israel?
An officer answers,
None, my lord, O king. But Elisha, the prophet that is in Israel, telleth the king of Israel the words that thou speakest in thy bedchamber.
Seize the prophet Elisha at Dothan. Go now.
So the king of Aram sends forces to seize Elisha at Dothan. In the morning, Elisha's servant opens the door and sees an army, horses and chariots surrounding the city. He panics.
Alas, my master, how shall we do?
Elisha answers calmly,
Fear not, for they that be with us are more than they that be with them.
Then Elisha prayed,
O Lord, open his eyes that he may see.
and the servant sees
The mountain is full of horses and chariots of fire.
all around Elisha. The visible enemy surrounds them, but the invisible army surrounds everything beyond that ring. Elisha prays that the Arameans be struck with blindness, then leads them into Samaria. When their eyes are opened, they realize they are in the middle of the people they came to capture. The king of Israel wants to kill them, but Elisha says,
Thou shalt not smite them. Set bread and water before them, that they may eat and drink and go to their master.
They eat, and they are released. A victory not by blood, but by reversal. Those who came to seize are led away, fed, and sent home. But war does not stop. Aram surrounds Samaria again more fiercely for longer, and famine becomes terrible. The king of Israel panics, and in desperation, he wants Elisha dead. Elisha sits with the elders and says something that sounds impossible.
Tomorrow about this time shall a measure of fine flour be sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel, in the gate of Samaria.
A royal officer mocks.
Behold, if the Lord would make windows in heaven, might this thing be?
Elisha answers,
Behold, Thou shalt see it eased, but shalt not eat thereof.
That night, the Lord makes the Aramean army hear the sound of a great host of chariots and horses, so they flee, leaving their camp full of food. Lepers enter first, eat until they are full. Then Gera grips them, and they report it. In the morning, the people rush out. Food floods into the city like water. The mocking officer is trampled to death. He sees the miracle, but does not taste it. Near the end of his life, Elisha becomes gravely ill. King Joash comes to visit and weeps.
O my father, the chariot of Israel, and the horsemen thereof.
Just as Elisha once cried when Elijah was taken, the next generation calls him father because Elisha has held Israel back from darkness again and again. Elisha tells the king to take a bough to put his hand upon it. Elisha lays his hands upon the king's hands. The king shoots an arrow eastward toward the enemy.
The arrow of the Lord's deliverance. For thou shalt smite the Syrians in Aphek, till thou hast consumed them.
Then he tells the king to take the arrows and strike the ground. The king strikes 3 times and stops, maybe because the action seems strange, maybe because he is impatient, maybe because he thinks that is enough. Elisha becomes angry not because of the ritual, but because of the heart behind it.
The king should have struck more times, as now the victory will come only in part, not completely.
Then Elisha dies. No fiery chariot like Elijah's, no whirlwind, only an ordinary death. And that ordinary death makes the story deeper. God's servants are still human. They pass through sickness, pain, and an ending. But Scripture leaves one strange final line. In a moment of panic, people throw a dead man into Elisha's tomb. When the body touches Elisha's bones, the man comes back to life and stands up, not to make Elisha an idol, but to testify that power belongs to God alone. God remains the giver of life. And that is the story of Elisha, a man called from the plow, given a cloak, then sent into the places where people are most emptied to declare that God is still there. He is in a kitchen with a poisoned pot. He is in a house with a small jar of oil. He is in a room where a child has just stopped breathing. He is there on the mountain when enemies surround. He is there at the city gate when a whole city believes tomorrow is gone. If today you are in your own Samaria, surrounded by anxiety, squeezed by lack, hemmed in by what you cannot control, remember what Elisha's life proves. God can reverse a situation faster than you think, and He often begins with one small step of obedience already placed in your hands. If this story touches your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Right, Lord, open my eyes. If you want God to open your eyes so you can see that He is with you, even when you feel surrounded and empty.